you know, we do these videos, and there's times that it is encouraging. There's times that you see hope. There's times that you see things that are going in the right trajectory. And then there's times it's not. You see the realism of the situation that we're in. It's not about optimism or pessimism. It's about what we're actually going through, the present day. Well, just today, let's think about this. We see a dollar chaos. We see the form of new money, digital currencies. We see conflicts with other world powers. We see literally negotiations happening behind America's back, which helps us lose power. We see the fact that people are now pulling away from support of places like Israel. A lot of those conversations we're going to talk about today, but ultimately what we're actually seeing is almost signs of like prophetic end times warnings there. Now, I'm not a prophet. I don't try to be. But what I'm saying is, as a Christian, I think we should be paying attention. We'll talk about New South Wales and a new law that they just put in. We'll talk about the United Kingdom and Europe and what their plans are for Christianity. We're going to talk about China again, what they're doing with persecution of churches and how they're trying to get rid of missionaries. Are we actually seeing signs of biblical perspective? Today we're going to talk about that because I want us to pay attention. And even if you're a Christian or not, I think this video is good because ultimately we're all going to be affected by some of the policies that are coming down. Let's dive into these stories today. And at the end of the video, I want you to tell me what your thoughts are. And am I wrong or right? Stay to the end. Let's talk about it. This video starts right now.
To be circling among the clouds, because without you by my side, I would be stuck here.
Now, as I start this video, I mean, you see the sun is rising. That's actually a beautiful sign. And I think every new day is hope. So I will say this, even in the craziest of this time, even though we deal with nutty stuff, there's always hope. So please know, when we make these videos, it's to encourage you to say, you know what? We need to quit putting faith and hope in things in this world and start putting faith and hope in something else. And that is higher power with God. And really, that's what we're talking about today as a Christian. Guys, thank you so much for being here today. If you are new to our channel, please go down here, press subscribe, ring the bell. Our goal is to talk about a wide array of things, from prepping to sustainable living, to current events, to literally the times that we're in. Our goal is to hopefully we all gain more wisdom and common sense together. Please share our content. Please give us a thumbs up. Those things tell this platform that it's important and that more people should consume it. We have been extremely held down, and that's just because I think we're speaking truth. Now let's talk about some of those things today. I actually think that the last few days, I felt like this burden has just kind of been on me. And you may have too. And we've probably felt like that for a long time. And don't get me wrong, I mean, we had hope. We thought that, you know, Harris not winning, Trump winning was a good thing. And I think that is true still. I think that the tariff situations, all that going on, and the negotiations are truthfully good things, because I believe that we have to correct a system that has faltered. Now, my goal as a Christian is I see that, yes, we're going to have ups and downs, and yes, there's going to be a time, you know, at the end where everything is going to come to a head. Now, I'm always hoping for revival and reawakening in America and in the world. I hope that that's what happens. I hope that these signs are just for reawakening and a reset, not for literally end times. But let's just talk about some of the things that's happened today. And I think that's what we should pay attention. There's a new report that the dollar literally has crashed. Now, let's go in context here. You're hearing the dollar crash. The dollar has not crashed per se. It's just went down tremendously. Now, we heard that it was going to be tougher in the next coming days and weeks because of the tariff and the trade wars. We know that. But to hear that the dollar is faltering is not good. We also hear that there are several banks that are struggling to hold on to money. Remember, because we're on a fractional lending and a new bank policy where our money is never put in to stay there, our money is put in, then it's moved around, and then ultimately people can borrow against way more money than the banks have. Well, they say through this stock market issue, through these trade talks, it's causing some problems with a lot of banks. So now we see a problem with money, we see a problem with, cash, we see a problem with banking. Well, currency then falls back to something like a digitized platform, which is what not only the Democrats pushing for, but the conservatives are too. Trump is pushing heavily on crypto and digitized currencies. We also see the world is doing the same thing. So stable coins are becoming more and more a thing. which is a digitized currency, which reminds you of kind of a new world order. Now, that's on the money side. What about the other things? Well, China's come out and said they're doubling down. They're doubling down on the fact that they're not turning away from these tariffs. They'll negotiate, but they're going to push hard to build a world without America having power. So they're starting to talk to Europe. They're starting to talk to Australia. They're starting to talk to other world powers to try to keep America out of the loop. I mean, biblically, we've talked about that. America may not be shown in Revelation. I mean, so there's things where America is, are we losing some power, or are we again just in negotiations and it's all going to work out okay? Ultimately, no matter what we think, if it's a reawakening period or resilience or a new renaissance or a new golden age, that's great, but that means we're going to have to go through valleys to get to those mountains. You know that. But if it's something else, if it's like, hey, this is the collapse that we've all been looking for, then we also need to pay attention to. So we see, where can we put our assets? You know, gold is going up, so it makes me feel good that gold is going up, but we can't eat gold. We understand that. And yes, I tell you to buy gold. I tell you to put up some cash. Those things I do tell you to do. But what is true worth when it comes to assets and keeping value? Well, for me, it's food, it's gardening, it's making sure that I can make sure my kids are taken care of. That's kind of what I've been looking to. Look at Colorado, how Colorado just put in a bill that ultimately says that they're going to start banning things that go in your hands that are self-defense tools. While we were distracted with tariffs, Colorado just basically banned the 2A rights of a lot of Americans. See, we take our focus off one thing, and actually what happens is we start losing rights on another. So some of these liberal areas are starting to still push their policies that takes away some of the freedoms and liberties of Americans. So we're becoming more enslaved by sometimes even our own government. Think of taxes. Now, Trump's trying to work that out. Great. And I hope it works out again. Renaissance, golden age. But if not, harder times will come. So we need to pay attention. Now, there's the money. Our value is not in cash, gold, or anything like that. It's really in worth of taking care of our family. So it comes down to food, safety, survival. But this video is really not about that as much. It's about the other things that we talked about in the intro. First, China comes out yesterday and states that they are going to start getting rid of missionaries of the Christian faith. They're going to start making sure they see, you know how missionaries go into China. A lot of times they go in because of their teachers or their college professors or their scientists, and then they also are missionaries based on religion, Christianity. Well, they said they're going to start cracking down on that. So a warning to Christians, you know, as missionaries, where are you willing to go and how much are you willing to stand for your faith? Because now we're starting to see persecution is definitely real. Have you ever Googled yourself and literally your family members and information of yours came up? The question always comes to mind is how much of my public information is actually on the World Wide Web, on the internet where people could just access it. Not only that, think about all the spam calls you get, all the spam emails you get. I get several a day and have to block and block and block. That's where my friends at Aura, the sponsor of today's video, can help. Aura will help remove your personal information from data brokers and people searching sites to sell your information from and to identity thieves and scammers and more. Aura monitors your personal data, including your social security number, your house number, your phone number. And not only do they check it and monitor it, they will alert you if all of a sudden they find that your information has been compromised. Also, Aura VPN. VPN protects you on the internet, and this was with military-grade protection when it comes to Aura's VPN. It blocks all scam and phishing sites from getting your information in your accounts. What about an antivirus? What about a password manager? 24/7 US-based support. I get all this in one app called Aura. I do not want to leave myself vulnerable. We talk about it all the time. We live in a digitized world. The last thing I want to do is protect my home and not protect myself online. Check out aura.com/themax today. You will not be sorry that you did. My information is mine. My social is my social. My address is mine. The last thing I want is someone else to have it. You can go to my link below, aura.com/themax, and get 2 weeks free. That will be enough for you to see how Aura is an asset to you, because you're going to realize how much you're exposed online. Stop leaving yourself vulnerable. Check out Aura today. Link is in the description. Thank you so much, Aura, for sponsoring today's video. That's China. What about Australia? New South Wales just came out with a new policy that if they catch you praying in public over a situation like gender issues, or praying for someone even if the person wanted you to pray over them. Even if they wanted you to pray over them, you can be arrested and put into jail up to 5 years for praying publicly on public streets, if it's for things that are not what the government says is okay. Billboard Chris, I don't know if y'all know Billboard Chris, but Billboard Chris is an influencer and activist, and what he does, he just wears these big billboards. I mean, it's kind of in his name. His name's Chris, and he walks around in places and it basically states his opinion. A lot of those things, he does not talk. A lot of times, unless he's talked to, he's not going to talk. He's not holding a megaphone or anything. He just holds these billboards, and they basically say things that conservatives believe in, Christians believe in, and I think sanity believes in. Well, guess what? He was just arrested in Australia, in Brisbane, Australia. Not for talking, not for pressing, not for holding anybody down, but for just having a sign that said conservative views and viewpoints. Arrested. So China, Australia. What about Europe? Europe now is arresting people for passing out Christian literature, Christian leaflets. Now, I did speak to an individual this week that literally came to our town, and they said, well, we see a resurgence in the Church of England, but it's silent, almost like it was in Asia, almost like it is in China, almost like it is in Iran. Well, that's great. That means they're, even with the persecution, they're willing to serve. But wholeheartedly, the area of UK and Europe has fallen ill to Islam. Now, you may not believe that, and you may have a different view on that, but ultimately, some of the biggest cities and the biggest towns and the biggest provinces and areas and countries in Europe and UK is now getting taken over by Islam. Well, there's no home for Christianity when that happens. We talked about 25 states here having the same problem, where they're starting with the ground up. Local precincts, local elections, local races, where they're going to try to instill Sharia law even in America. So that is a problem that I think the world will face, especially in the West, somewhere they hadn't really faced. They said they're willing to fight for it for even 100 years if it comes down to it, to make sure that their will and their Sharia law is put in. Now, we have China, we have Australia, we have, of course, the Middle East, and now we see the problems in Europe. Then we hear the fact that good things are happening in America because, again, Trump's back in power, so then it allows us to have a little bit more freedom when it comes to our Christianity, and that's great. I think that's awesome. I think what you saw, though, is in places like Mississippi and some of these more conservative states, you felt that freedom and liberty, and you feel a little bit more safer. However, in some of these other states, like I was just telling you, you're starting to see pressing of more liberalism and more leftism, and they're trying to say, well, this is the right way. And how the media spins it, it looks like Trump is weak right now, and it looks like the liberals are winning out. And so you're starting to see these policies like in Colorado. You're starting to see California double down. You're starting to see Maine, Arizona, Oregon, Washington start double down on policies that didn't get them anywhere, and actually completely false doctrine and issues with gender. And all these kind of things are starting to come to the surface. Actually, people are getting persecuted for not believing still in this thing. Still in this. I mean, look at the schools. School systems are falling to pieces, but ultimately we still have to send our kids there because we have to go to work and still have to pay. So they're still getting indoctrinated even when they're not supposed to. Even when they say they're going to get rid of the Department of Education. Even when they say these colleges are not teaching this garbage anymore. They still are, especially in these liberal areas, because these liberal areas are going to protect what they've worked so hard to dismantle. So you're starting to see them double down. So we say it's not going to happen in America. We say America's doing a lot better, and I hope that's true. I hope that we are going through a reawakening, and we're just going through the valley now to get to the mountain. But I do think we should pay attention. Now I want to bring up another point, and this is the one I think that hits the most, and this is the one that's probably going to bring up the most disagreements when it comes to comments. And this is why I wanted you to stay to this kind of the end of the video. Pay attention to the hatred in Israel. Now, I made a mention not too long ago on Twitter about it's amazing to me to see how many conservatives and Christians are pushing against Israel. Now, we know why the left doesn't like Israel. We know why a lot of the players in the world doesn't like Israel. We understand that. That's biblical. We do get that. But I made a comment that I can't believe that conservatives and Christians now, even people like, you know, the Joe Rogans, who's not a conservative but a libertarian, the Candace Owens of the world, even some of the Tucker Carlson stuff, and some of the people that they're platforming, the Dave Smiths, the Ian Carrolls, those kind of people, how they're starting to get more and more and more, I would consider more woke right, but to be honest with you, they're trying to push so much against neoconservatism, which is almost like the Bushes and the Cheneys and all that, for sure, and the McConnells, that instead of just going to the middle and saying, okay, we can still love parts of the world and still be America first and still live as a Christian conservative, they're pushing completely away from it and acting like, major conspiracies are happening and Israel's the problem of it. So you're starting to see that conservative movement move away, and even the Christianity move away from Israel, which is, I think, one of the biggest biblical warnings that we can see. And again, I'm not saying Israel's doing everything right. I'm not saying that. I think that there are some different ways that they should do policies. And to be honest with you, remember, the whole purpose of Israel, and when we think of it in the Bible, as a Christian, as a Bible-believing Christian in southern Mississippi, we look at it as, the Israelites and Jews, they turned away from God, and now they're living in sin, no doubt. But we still look at them as God's chosen people. That's what I do. Now, that's not what most people do, because, man, on Twitter I got lambasted for those comments. For instance, though, let's look at this little map. And again, this is one of those things I got blasted for. Look at this map now. If you see that, that's the Middle East, or what we consider the Middle East. And you see all that green, and you see that one little red dot right there. That one little red dot right there in the middle of the screen. Now, surrounded by all that green, that's the Middle East. That's what stays in chaos and turmoil. But they're saying that one little red dot, which is Israel, is the reason that the world is in chaos, the reason that the Middle East is in chaos, the reason that America has been bought out, all because of that one little measly red dot. Now, I love to see them have power, especially if they're God's chosen people. What I'm saying, though, is I think that what we've done is we've made an enemy. And I think now conservatism and Christians have almost kind of bit that apple too. There's a new study out that says most Americans now, this is not the world, most Americans now have a negative view of Israel. Under 50% support, even in the GOP. So now we're seeing even America move away from supporting Israel. Again, that used to be a major Christian thought pattern there. Judeo-Christian values, America first. And that's what I told you not too long ago. It scares me that I love to see the pendulum swing away from leftism and liberal ideology. However, are we swinging so much past normalcy in Christianity and conservatism in a golden age that we're pushing towards patriotism and liberty in America first? And that's all good things. But out of the context of no conservative views in it, out of the context of just being not the left, I'm scared that we're pushing even away from Judeo-Christian values, things that the forefathers still set up for us to have not only freedoms, but truthfully to be completely in support of traditional values and conservatism. Think about our Republican movement right now. Most of the conservative movement is not made up of true traditional conservative Christian. Honestly, think about it. You have a few pastors that are big. You have a few leaders that are still Christian conservatives. But for the most part, the majority of conservative talking heads are people who may not support Israel, or people they may say they have Christian values, but they're not really Christians, or they're people who support more of a conservative fiscal policy, like Trump. He's a fiscal conservative, but not really a moral conservative and values conservative. He tends to be a little bit more liberal. Most of his cabinet's like that. Bassett, Ludnick, Sachs, all those guys are great when it comes to fiscal conservatism. However, moral compasses are not quite there. So I'm scared what we're doing is we're pushing towards a right agenda and maybe America First policies and liberty and freedom, which allows us to benefit as Christians, but is not pushing towards Christianity. It may be pushing away from it in the long run. And that's what scares me. I think about the podcast I just watched with Douglas Murray and Joe Rogan and Smith. None of them represent a Christian thought or point of view. They represent great neoconservatism. They represent great, liberty and freedom, and great, independent thought patterns. But none of that actually is a benefit to traditional conservatism or traditional Christianity, which scares me, because then I'm scared America is pushing more to a different way of looking at prosperity that doesn't have God in it. It reminds me of what Israel and what other countries have done for so long, is try to say, well, we want to be prosperous, we want to have some kind of value system, but we don't necessarily have to have God. And I think that's what scares me the most. And then to hear the stories that we're not backing Israel as much. Now you can get mad in the comments all you want, but ultimately I think this is a bad play. I think we're going down a better road than what we were going down with leftists and with Biden and Harris, no doubt. But I'm scared if we don't straighten our way out, this valley may be so deep that we're actually maneuvering away from God even more in America. And sadly, the American Christian and the conservative is not standing up and actually talking about it. We're just, hey, we're glad to have the win, that we're on the left, we're not on the left, we're on the right. But I'm scared that we're still not standing up for true traditional values, true traditional conservatism, true Christian, Judeo-Christian values. I think those things are going to fall by the wayside like it has in Asia, like it has in Australia, and like it has in Europe. And I'm scared then we're going to long for something, and that longing is going to make us move away even more. So here's the signs. Let's kind of wrap it up. We see America coming to a place of a valley. Our dollar is struggling. Gold is surging, which is great, but people want to find wealth in something else. Well, banks are struggling. And, like the bee population is down, so they talked about the food not being able to be assessed as much. So we think about things like that, and we're like, man, that's bad times. So that means, are we just going through a valley to get back to a mountainside and we'll have a rear awakening, reset, and revival? That's great. I hope that's what we have, actually. Because I have children that's growing up in this world, and until this world ends, I have 6 kids I want to take care of. Or are we seeing countries rise up against America? We're seeing America turn its back on Israel. We're seeing Israel get blamed for things that sometimes, yes, they may bring their own problems. They may have some atrocities they need to work on. But ultimately, it seems like everybody's turning against them. Are we seeing signs of biblical warnings? New currencies, biblical warnings. Are we seeing the fall of America, biblical warnings? I just want you to pay attention. Here's what I would want you to get out of all this. You can't solve the world's problems. I can't solve the Middle Eastern problems. I can't solve Russia and Ukraine. I can't solve America, even though I try. We can't. But what I can do is this. I can pray. I can have hope and faith, just like the sun that just rose over my shoulder. I can literally love my family and be the best father and the best husband possible. I can try to do as much as I can when it comes to budgeting and safety and survival, and put the things like what Colorado just did. I can make sure I have enough of that put up for survival. I can make sure that I'm growing enough food to take care of my family. That's what we talked about, building a house on the same property for Aiden and for other children that wants to, because I want them to have something that they can always rely on when money fails, when digitized currency comes up, when it goes back to a bartering system. They have food. They have livelihood. They have a way they can grow their own food. So I push that as a prepper and survivalist, but actually more than that, I push it as a Christian and conservative because I see the writing on the wall. Either we're going through a valley and we need a reawakening, we need a revival, or we're seeing biblical warnings almost like end times. Either way, the valley or that may not be easy for people to go through. So that's why we prepare. That's why we try to do things to survive. Do I have hopes for Trump and his administration? Yes, in a way I do. But at the same time, I prepare as if there is no hope. There's always hope. Remember that. But if we prepare and have the insurance for it, then we know we're okay. Why do I buy fire insurance? Why do I buy auto insurance? Why do I buy health insurance? Why do I buy any kind of insurance like that? Why do I do home title lock? Why do I do other forms of insurance to protect myself? Because we want to make sure that we're always prepared if something bad happens. Do I want to use my life insurance? No. Do I want to use my health insurance for cancer? No. Do I want to use my fire insurance because my house burned down and all the things in it? No. But I have those things for safety. Same way when we talk about preparing, food, survival. It's not that we act crazy. It's not that we say everything's going to be bad, but we're just putting that insurance aside and knowing that either, for instance, we're seeing the fall of the dollar, seeing the fall of some American things. Are we seeing end times? Are we seeing just a valley? Either way, I want to be prepared for it. Let me know your thoughts on this. Am I wrong? Am I wrong about the Middle East? Am I wrong about some of these countries? Should we be excited about where America's at? I am excited that America has some good things going, But at the same time, I still think we got to go through a valley. Even Trump said last week, talking about the tariffs, he said, we will go through some tough times. Your financials will go through some tough times. We'll go through some hard times because ultimately we've got to get to that new time, that new change. And I agree there. I think that if we are going through a valley, we're going to have to go through a big valley to get to that resurgence of the market, or the resurgence of America First, or the resurgence of manufacturing again. Yes, I have hope that that's where we're at, and I hope that's where we're at. But if not, and we start seeing our money falter, we start seeing tougher times on America, tougher times on our allies such as Israel, and then we start pulling away from them, then we're seeing maybe biblical signs. Be prepared, be ready, have hope, pray, and ultimately seek God and hopefully wisdom. I'm scared that the people that are getting platformed the most, the people that are the talking heads the most, even on the conservative side, are not giving us the wisest advice when it comes to traditional values and trying to make America truly great again. Give me your thoughts. God bless.
You can take me high.